Hi, I'm Ophi YouTube Videos. I am a feminist and a lesbian, and I make conversational commentary videos about both of those things. I promised I'm on my way winding down the electoral themed content because our election here in the United States is over with. Not the result I wanted. I already made a couple of videos about that. But as per usual, for things I want to talk about here on this channel, there are some things going on online that I'm finding pretty annoying and would like to talk about. Also, I'm pretty certain that this is a phenomenon among white women. So I just want to be clear, that's going to be a big part of my approach here. I am talking to and for the benefit of other white women who might find my viewpoint on this helpful. I don't mean to speak over or for people of color, who I'd love to hear from in the comment section what you think about all of this, and if there's anything where you feel like I missed the mark. But I'm approaching this as some white lady, right? But following the 2024 election here in the United States, apparently, according to, TikTok and my Twitter feed, a bunch of white women were immediately incredibly mobilized by the electoral victory of Donald J. Trump, rushing into action to make blue friendship bracelets. Let me talk about how we got here, first of all, at least in part. Taylor Swift is currently winding down her massively successful Eras tour, which has been an absolute phenomenon and has broken attendance records, skyrocketing Taylor Swift to even greater heights of fame than she had previously achieved. If you've noticed it being, cool to like Taylor Swift again recently, it's most likely because of the success of the Eras tour. The whole thing where you make friendship bracelets ahead of time and hand them out at concerts is not new and specific to the Eras tour, originally known as Candy, like Kandi, Candy. It was more like a rave/EDM music type thing, people just bringing things to trade and give away at concerts and shows among other fans. It was, however, very much popularized by the Eras tour, in part because of a Taylor Swift lyric from her most recent album Before Tortured Poets Department, where she said, "Make the friendship bracelets, take the moment and taste it, you've got no reason to be afraid." It's from one of my favorite recent Taylor Swift songs called You're on Your Own, Kid. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that this became such a part of the culture around the Eras Tour concert, You're on Your Own, Kid isn't even officially on the set list. But Swifties have made a lot of friendship bracelets, many with initialisms for lyrics or titles of Taylor Swift songs, and they go to the Eras concert just loaded up with armfuls to trade and give away. It's a nice little thing in this context. It's just a fun way to connect with other fans and make friends who have baked-in similar interests to yours. Like, built-in little icebreaker. Here, I made this bracelet. Do you want to trade? But I do think that there is an interesting thread to pull here, and I'm planning on pulling it in this video, but I also want to mention a few other things about Taylor Swift here, and hopefully that'll prove to you why it ties into the thread that I said I'm talking about. So first of all, Taylor Swift's politics. Taylor Swift quite famously came out as a liberal in 2018. Before that, she had remained pretty staunchly apolitical, with maybe the exception of the lyric in Welcome to New York where she says, "You can want who you want, boys and boys and girls and girls." I have a ton of thoughts about Taylor Swift's political activism and the way that it really waned following the Miss Americana and Lover eras, but there's an entire documentary about Taylor Swift's decision to make her first political endorsement during the 2018 midterms. I will be making a video at some point about that documentary and how I think that it was originally not meant to be her coming out as a lib, but for the purposes of this video, it matters that the documentary that did come out was about her coming out as a liberal. It was explained in the documentary that Taylor Swift had been told for pretty much her entire career that she didn't want to be like the Chicks, a country band that was hardcore canceled following their criticism of George W. Bush during the Iraq War. Taylor feared being known as a progressive. There's even a scene where she's told during a meeting with her team and her parents that to tell her fans that she's a Democrat would be an idea that might cut the amount of fans she has in half. 2018 Taylor did it anyway. Taylor actually did a ton of work mobilizing young voters for the 2018 midterms, encouraging her fans to register to vote, sharing selfies and Instagram stories from fans of hers who did vote and tagged her in it. I think maybe most crucial to why Taylor's future political endorsements were so much less involved, maybe has to do with the fact that her preferred candidate, the Democratic challenger to Tennessee's Marsha Blackburn, lost. It wasn't Taylor's only political endeavor. She would later endorse the Democrats during Joe Biden's run in 2020, and of course, this year, following the vice presidential debate, she posted an Instagram story endorsing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I think this endorsement was pretty good. It was a bit undercut, though, by the fact that a rumor had circulated that she would make a surprise appearance at the Democratic National Convention, which didn't happen. When that never materialized, headlines started to circulate for a few days that maybe Taylor Swift had decided to back away from her Miss Americana image. And they thought this not just because she didn't immediately jump in to endorse Kamala, or because she wasn't actually scheduled to perform at the DNC, and neither was Beyonce, but also, in part, they thought this because of Taylor Swift's very high-profile friendship with Brittany Mahomes. Brittany Mahomes is the wife of a teammate and apparently best friend of Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Her husband's name is Patrick Mahomes. Brittany is kind of... this is a point we'll get to later when I say this, but you look at Brittany Mahomes or at a woman who looks very much like her, and you kind of already know she was going to vote for Trump, or maybe not vote at all at best, and be a little bit relieved if it was him who won instead of a woman. This was, I think, already being speculated on before Brittany liked a graphic on Instagram about Donald Trump's agenda while he was seeking re-election. Like I said, headlines were swirling about Taylor because Taylor has been very, very buddy-buddy with this woman. And Donald Trump, who had already been sharing AI-generated Swifties for Trump imagery on his Truth Social account, gave Brittany a personal shout-out for liking his graphic and supporting her. He called her beautiful, a contrast to the fact that after Taylor endorsed Kamala Harris, he tweeted, "I hate Taylor Swift," in all caps. And listen, longtime viewers already know that I'm kind of a Gaylor here. You can think whatever you think about Taylor Swift's highly publicized relationship with a football man and what seems to be a mutually beneficial contract for her with the NFL, but the most interesting piece of the puzzle here actually isn't what it means for Karma to be the guy on the Chiefs. It's maybe what Taylor Swift's normalization of being buddy-buddy with and putting politics aside to remain snugly friends with your new sports friends did to the expectations of these conservatives, who are now melting down on social media about being cut off by their progressive and leftist family members and friends as a result of their vote. Like, the part of me that's cynical, the part of me that thinks that Taylor Swift's documentary was meant to be about her coming out as bisexual rather than as a liberal, that rolls my eyes at her lyric about voices that implore you should be doing more, and to them I can admit I'm just too soft for all of it, lyrics on Midnights. I think this whole sports brand thing, all of these new conservative MAGA buddies she has, the part of me that rolls my eyes at all of that really thinks maybe all of this was the correction. Maybe this is what Taylor Swift figured out so that she can still endorse political figures, but also not feel like she was going to have half as many fans in her stadiums. That's also why I think that she didn't actually intend on endorsing until right before the election, and therefore after her last United States show, and that she moved more quickly as a result of Trump's use of the AI-generated images of her, and of the negative press that she was receiving as this Miss Americana brand of hers continues to crumble. So, beyond Taylor bringing both unity with Trump supporters and friendship bracelets to the general consensus, there is one more piece of her endorsement of the Harris-Walz campaign that sticks out to me as relevant to this conversation. The campaign itself sold friendship bracelets. As this post-election meme, people aren't being urged to buy those official ones. The merch shop appears to be closed down for now. They're being asked to make their own, but my point still stands. This whole white women signaling with blue bracelets thing, and I say this with the same amount of affection that I always already have for Taylor Swift, feels a little bit like Taylor Swift's fault. So, back to these blue bracelets. The prompt is for white women to make these friendship bracelets and wear them so that it's easy to identify them as women who did not vote for Donald Trump. Rather than a trading thing like they are at concerts or raves, they are like a self-identification thing. I saw it described as performative self-flagellation, and I don't fully disagree. I do think that there's some more nuance to it, but yeah, I kind of do think it is mostly that. Also, you probably could tell, but I edited this bracelet in the thumbnail to look blue. My nephew made this for me. I did not participate in this trend. Anyway, something I do want to tie into this, but that again will come up more in depth in a later video. Following the 2016 election, when Donald Trump won, despite tapes circulating of him describing sexual harassment and assault against women and saying when you're famous, you can simply grab women by the pussy, women and their allies participated in a big historic march in Washington, D.C. And a great deal of them were decked out in what are known as pussy hats. Made in the Moment has some videos about Ravelry that talk about the history of the pussy hats. I think they're really good. And while the pussy hats themselves got a lot of flack at the time for being transphobic, for being imagery that people felt was directly related to assigned female genitalia, I think there are a few reasons that I disagree with that position. A lot of the people that I've spoken to who have that position think that because they thought that the boxy design at the top of the hat was meant to actually resemble a vulva. It's not, if nobody's told you that yet. It's not. It's like cat ears, cat, pussy, grab them by the pussy. And I'm not typically all for correlating pussy to woman all the time. It's weird and crass and dehumanizing, and also it excludes trans women who haven't yet had gender affirmative surgery. But also, when we're using the word pussy back as a direct response to the fact that Donald Trump was both using the word pussy and describing non-consensually grabbing them, repeating it to make your point, I don't think is necessarily harmful. And my thing, and my opinion for a couple years now, has been that I think in retrospect the pussy hats were pretty benign, though I do understand why some people felt discomfort at them for all the reasons I just expressed. They were like an expression of feminist unrest, and they were pretty relentlessly mocked. And yeah, ultimately, in the long haul, pussy hats were pretty ineffective. But like, what isn't? These were quick and easy projects, boxy like cat ears, but also because it meant someone new to knitting could make a hat without needing to learn how to decrease or knit in the round. And most importantly, they were mostly tied to the idea that you went to at least one of these protests. I think that's what makes a difference to me here. The part of me that thinks that these pussy hats were mostly benign wants to think that I should also interpret this blue friendship bracelet thing as much of the same. Maybe that's the morally consistent take for me. Most women who are feeling a need to go make these blue bracelets and signal that they voted for Kamala, I believe did probably actually vote for Kamala. And I've also seen a bunch of tweets from people who land on our sides of things saying that they have a greater feeling of paranoia when they're out in public, that everyone they see is a suspect, somebody who may have voted for Donald Trump. Sure, maybe there are some liars who want the social benefit of pretending to have morals that they couldn't have been bothered to enact in a voting booth, but I don't think that's who mostly made the pussy hats, and I don't think it's mostly who's making these blue bracelets. And I will say, the white women in the pussy hats got mocked a lot as if they were all just duplicitous lying women, when in reality they were just women who had gotten outvoted. And I didn't care a ton about exit data and breakout polls the first time that Trump won. Like, there were some white women who I can remember really clinging to, well, wait, because college-educated white women didn't vote for Trump as overwhelmingly as non-college-educated white women did, so don't be mean to us, just be mean to the non-college-educated white women. And I never found that particularly compelling because, first of all, I'm a white woman and I'm not college-educated and I didn't vote for Trump, so obviously not all non-college-educated white women voted for Trump either. But also because a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for white supremacy, and so being frustrated at white people categorically for that feels more than fair to me. I didn't think anybody was being so mean about white women that I needed to defend them, but I do care more now this time around because stats from exit polls are being shared around recklessly. Like 62% of Native American voters voted for Donald Trump when it's actually out of a very small sample and was not taken by anybody who got to vote on a reservation. But these stats are getting shared around because they are being used to stoke anger and distrust and divisiveness at minorities. And like, cerebrally, yeah, even misogyny against white women is still misogyny, and misogyny is both a symptom and a cause of our current cultural rot. A lot of people say white women, and especially straight white women, just so that they can still say mean and misogynistic things and still get away with it. Like, that does still happen. But to me, it's the fact that it's now not only white women who are being scapegoated for this Donald Trump victory harder than most proud MAGA voters are, But now that blame is being portioned out into so many other different demographics as well. People of color who will be hit harder by this incoming administration than white women like me will. And that's what makes me now really unable to muster up any real empathy for these white women who feel so desperate to signal that they aren't like other white women, that they want to do arts and crafts about it. Because again, what does that do? What does it do to make and wear a blue friendship bracelet other than to ameliorate a guilt that you don't need to carry if you did not vote for Donald Trump? I'm off Twitter now, but before I quit for Blue Skies, I did see a couple of reactions from some black women who I follow over there, and this whole thing from white women did not seem to be doing anything for them other than maybe get an eye roll, which I thought was justified. But also, like I said before, in terms of people like Brittany Mahomes kind of just looking like they voted for Donald Trump, I guess there's also part of me that doesn't understand this because I just don't really think I look in any particular way that leads people to make that assumption that I voted for Donald Trump. I don't think anyone's ever thought that about me. So the part of me that's like a little bit snarky and condescending looks at these white women who want an I promise I voted Democrat bracelet, and I'm thinking, okay, or you could just maybe, develop some personal style. Obviously, it's not that simple. Some people do still enjoy feminine or, mainstream aesthetics, but, just dye your hair a weird dumb color like I did, or put streaks in it, or patches on your jacket, or whatever. It's really not that hard. I would also be absolutely remiss not to mention that if you want to make sure that you won't be mistaken for a Trump supporter, you could simply maybe start wearing a mask again. My masking on public transportation is a huge part of why I don't worry about being mistaken for a conservative. And also, I catch far fewer colds. I haven't gotten strep once since I started masking, when I used to get it at least yearly. And crucially, I don't have to go to Michael's and buy supplies I won't use again just to make a point on social media. I don't really think that people who were appealed to by the thought of something like this are bad or wrong. I just think that they're thinking about things in a way that is extremely self-centering, and that there are other and better ways to show solidarity. It feels important to point out that two things can be true at once here. Don't blame me, I voted for the other guy. Bumper stickers and t-shirts have definitely always been a thing, and it's human and natural to want to distance yourself from this. But also, actual solidarity requires the kind of empathy that stops you before you put on a stupid self-serving bracelet and makes you say, wait, if someone was wearing this for me, would I think this was kind of stupid and self-serving? And while, yeah, I don't think a lot of people in the blue bracelets secretly voted for Trump and are now pretending otherwise, how many of them in those blue bracelets are now sharing tweets and videos with the ICE hotline? How many of them are happy putting on that bracelet and not actually thinking through what else they might be able to do to make the people around them who are the furthest from power and protection feel a bit safer and more supported around them? The answer to that is actually never self-flagellation or bragging about how safe you are to be around. It's listening to and uplifting the struggles of other people who you're trying to congratulate yourself on offering safety to. So, yeah, I'm sorry to everybody who has a blue bracelet that they just already really like, and now people think you're doing a whole thing with it. I just think it's maybe useful to be critical when things that are entirely aesthetic signals of politics pop up, because it's often a thing that comes from the mindset of being on the correct team. That all you need to do is correctly signal that you are on the right team, and then, by way of being on the right team, you have the right opinions. The rest of any praxis will come later as a result of having decided to be good. But your actions and your treatment of other people is actually how you decide to be and do good, and what puts you on the correct team. Donate to a local mask block. Donate to a local abortion fund. Donate to a local food pantry. Find a way that you can get involved with people who are helping people who will be impacted by this Trump administration. And of course, yes, white women will be impacted. White women lost their abortion access under the last Trump administration, but not until Biden, because the Supreme Court waited to do that. It's because voters are stupid. You just jumped so high. You want to say something? Yeah. That won't go away. That might get a lot worse, but it also will get a lot worse in other ways for people who are also having it get worse in the ways that it's getting for white people. Yeah, this is very prescriptive. I don't know how helpful it is. I just wanted to say something about it. We'll talk about my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory about Miss Americana soon. I'm not somebody who's gonna be forced to back down from my position that I think it's okay and funny to speculate if a pop star is gay or bisexual, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay or bisexual. And I sometimes get policed when I voice that opinion, and I'm not like super, super defensive in that you have to agree with me, but I am defensive in that I kind of think you're being a cop if you're really mad at me for being a lesbian who thinks Taylor Swift might be bisexual. That's just my take. You're welcome to skip my Taylor Swift videos if it's not your take on that woman. I'll see you all soon. I love you a lot. Bye.